one. Action.
All right. Well, can you believe it? We made it to week 19. Week 19 through 24 is all about probability. And I'll admit, I'm not that good at probability. So I'm going to stick close to the script and try to walk you through this. But our focus for week 19 is probability and outcomes. Supplies, you're going to need a paper bag, 5 red chips, 5 white chips, and a lab sheet. 1 per team, front and back here. For the younger students, I would recommend that you just walk through this as a class. I think it'll be easier that way. Some of our grammar, we have the probability, which we have a formal definition, or the informal one, which is basically the chance of something happening. The warm-up that we'll go through is the front page of the lab sheet. And if you look in your foundations guide, you'll see what this 6 weeks is covering. And they have sort of an abstract suggestion where you just get the kids to pretend that you have candy behind your back. And I think at that point you've kind of lost them. So I like using a visual a lot better. I'm a very visual person, so I found this to be very helpful. So instead of doing the pretend candy behind the back, we're going to do the pretend candy on the paper. And so what you'll be doing is you're going to go through and just answer these questions with the class. And these are supposed to represent little M&Ms. How many candies are green? How many candies are blue? How many candies do we have all together? And then based upon that, you're going to walk through and get to the last part where what is the probability that the candy that I pick will be blue? Well, it's going to be 3 out of 4, or 75%. And for the older students, you know, challenge them, and maybe go ahead and add this extension of, if I were to add 2 more green candies, what would my new ratio and probability be? And of course, it would be 1/2. So that's kind of a warm-up to get their mind thinking along the lines of probability. And our actual activity, we'll be using the back sheet of the lab sheet. And again, younger students, I think doing this as a class, letting each one of them have a turn to come up and pull out a chip from the bag would be fun. But for the older students, I would recommend breaking them out into teams of either 2 or 3 based upon how large the class is. So on that team, have one person be a record keeper, and then either 1 or 2 extra kids can be the people that pull the chips out of the bag. So you're going to put 5 red chips into the plastic bag and 5 white chips. Give it a shake, and then they're going to draw out a chip. And I drew out a white chip, and so I would record a 1 hash mark, or however, an X, whatever they want to use as a way to keep track on the white circle. Instead of, which this is kind of a tendency, I wanted to just discard this, but we need to put it back into the bag to continue to have that probability be, I'm not sure the word that I'm looking for, but to keep that scenario the same. Another white one. So you're just going to continue doing that process until they get to 20. And that's not 20 whites and 20 reds. That's a total of 20 chips that they've drawn out of the bag. And once they get to that point, then what they're going to do is they're going to total how many reds they had and how many whites they had. And then they're going to write the outcome in the form of a ratio, and basically that's going to be, it should be close to 50% or 1 and 2 ratio. Some things that you could do to extend this, you could combine two teams, combine the chips, and do this whole process again and see what they come up with. You could take out some chips and experiment with that. I'll let you guys kind of be the guide on that. I know Sarah Jane, thank you so much. She's offered to bring in some books on probability, and so you could read some things at the end of class if you have time, but basically that's what we're going to be covering, and then I'll look forward to spending some time at lunch with you guys discussing the rest of the probability section. And that's it. Thanks.